Hi, this episode we're going to talk about services. Architects can design the most beautiful or complex buildings, but without building services being introduced and actually integrated effectively, it's not going to work. We spend many hours poring over our designs. But tell me honestly, do we ever spend even half that amount of time, somewhere close to half that amount of time on the services that actually go into ensuring that the design functions smoothly? The answer is definitely no. We don't think that this area is important, so we don't delve deep into it. And we just look at it in a very superficial manner. But let me tell you that the services of a building are of optimum and utmost importance. They require to be looked into in great detail. To begin with, we require at the planning stage itself to create spaces for services. You leave more space, not less, so that even at a later date, if you have forgotten some small services like some small pumps for a water filter or something, it can be incorporated. But if we do our entire planning and then we decide that in the residual pockets, I'm going to fit in my services, more often than not, it always fails. See, every piece of equipment requires not only the exact size of the equipment, but it requires space around the equipment for proper installation, for proper functioning, and in fact for maintenance at a later date. So if you don't leave enough adequate space for that equipment, and you just kind of box it into a corner and you think that yes, this is going to work, it's not going to work. For instance, if you put your outdoor units, into an area which is not ventilated and that system doesn't actually let go of the heat, it's definitely going to fail. So you have to take into account all the pieces of equipment that you will require for the efficient functioning of whether it's a home, whether it's an office, whether it's a residential building, commercial building, everything. And that's how you proceed. So, why get into something more complex? Let's talk about a small bungalow. When we talk about a small bungalow, what are the basic services that we will require to provide, let's say at the ground level? Now, obviously, you're going to have to store your water somewhere, so you will have an underground tank. Now, that underground tank requires to take the water up to your terraces, so therefore you require pumps for those tanks. You don't want there to be a power failure. You want continuous, power available. So you will have a DG, you will have a transformer. You will definitely have an electrical room filled with a lot of panels because there are so many issues which you require to take care of. You require to take care of an automation panel. You require to take care of your, all your other electrical panels which come in, your fire panel, etc. Then, of course, you will also have a server room because today, everything is basically, intelligent and we require so many computers. So we will require a server room. There are places where, obviously the water is hard and therefore you require a water softener. Now, these are all just the basic. I'm not even talking about more. I'm just talking about the basic things which you require on the ground floor. Now, you go up to the terrace. Once you go up to the terrace, again, you will require obviously an overhead tank. If you're not using a hydropneumatic system, you'll require a looping of all of these water pipes. You'll require to house solar panels because today it's the call of the day. In fact, in all our projects, especially in bungalows, we are using solar panels. In fact, in Ahmedabad, we've installed solar panels and we've actually we are actually now giving electricity back to the grid because that's the amount of electricity we are generating on site. So what I'm saying is that everything requires to be looked into. You don't want that you have an interrupted power supply, right? You don't want that the water pressure is not adequate, therefore your pump size and capacity must be adequate. Now, you don't always rely upon a single pump. You always have two pumps because if one fails, you're not going to wait for somebody to come to service it and then, then operate it. So you have to have two pumps. You always have to have a backup. Now, all of these things require a certain amount of planning at the initial stage. Now, I'm going to take you through a project. Again, it's a bungalow, and I just want to show you basically that, okay, this is what the bungalow may look like, but when you look at certain parts of it, what looks, like, okay, yes, this is a water body, but this also requires some kind of equipment for it. So, this is basically the ground floor plan, and which you see in orange are actually the services for the ground floor structure. Like I explained, the underground tank and the electrical panel room, as well as the DG set, the transformer, all of that. Then, of course, you go up to the terrace, and there, of course, you will also have the overhead tank, you will have your solar panels, you will have your looping taken care of, and you will also have your AC units. And like I said, it depends upon the number of equipment you require to house. That's the amount of area you will leave. This is basically the view of the bungalow once you're approaching it, and it has, of course, a beautiful garden, and you can see that it's all been screened off with all of these aluminium fins, and there are very deep overhangs. Now, once you move closer, you'll see that between the two wings of the house, there is a water body which is tucked in. On closer look, that's basically what the water body looks like. Now, you look at this water body and you don't really think, you don't think very deeply about it. But you have to understand that to create a water body which is maybe 12 feet by about 25 feet, you will require systems. You will require definitely, you'll require a pump. You will require basically a softener. You will definitely require also a filtration plant, because you want the water to look clean. It's very important that the water looks clean, that the tiles reflect blue. You don't want there to be kind of, a green moss or fungus on it. So the water has to be kept clean. There has to be a filtration plant. Now, here what you notice is that basically there are marble, lotus leaves which have been created as like a sculpture on it. But if I was to use an actual lotus, then suddenly my filter would become a biofilter. So of course these are small things, but now even to house this filtration plant, I required a room of at least 5 feet by 8 feet. And when you look at this, you don't think that it will actually require such a large filtration plant and a pump and a second pump. But yes, that's what it actually does require, and that's when the water body is always functioning. It's got this ripple which happens throughout the day, and it looks clean, and that's when it gives you a visual which you're happy to come home to. Now, of course, this is another view of the home, and you see that there was a water body on that side, and on this side, of course, there is a garden. Now, the garden, all these large gardens which we have in these bungalows, how are all these going to survive? Yes, you will have some kind of a sprinkler system, and this is actually the same bungalow, but about 4 hours later, and you see the lighting is on. Now, all this lighting which you see is also on an automation system, so that basically you get the perfect ambient lighting. Everything has been dimmed to a certain level. Now, this again is the role that services play. If I didn't have an automation system, I couldn't have bought this perfect level of ambient lighting. And similarly so for the interiors. So, services are really, really important. Please plan for them right in the beginning. They will make your entire project look so effortless and so beautiful, and the clients will be so happy that they will thank you.